welcome one, welcome all. Who's joining me late on HogvilleNET YouTube Live post-game analysis? The Arkansas Razorbacks demolished again at home. We've seen this movie. Number 8 Tennessee came in and led by as many as 32 points. We know that was the record-losing margin at Bud Walton Arena to Auburn in January 6th in the SEC opener. Here we are in the 11th game of league play, and the Razorbacks were down a couple of times, about 32 points late. In fact, it would have ended that way if not for Joseph Pinions and one conversion, and Arkansas loses by 29, 92-63 to the 8th-ranked Vols here at Bud Walton Arena. Arkansas now, 12-12 overall, 3-8 in league play. And there's not a whole lot to really dive deep into tonight on what happened on this court. This is the 5th time in this season in league play that Arkansas lost by 20 or more points. And the second time at Bud Walton Arena, we know that Arkansas, I mentioned Auburn, 32-point loss there, 29-point loss here. So it's the second worst loss here. And then when you look on the road, 22 points at Florida, 26 points at Ole Miss, and 21 points at LSU, 2 games ago. So despite Arkansas looking for its second consecutive win in league play for the first time this season, having won 2 of its previous 3, it's back to reality. And look, this is where things are for Arkansas as we look ahead. Only 7 games left. Arkansas goes on the road for back-to-back games against very good quad one, two more quad one games like tonight. Mississippi State on the road and then Texas A&M. But here's what it looks like. Arkansas is 2 losses away from locking up a second consecutive season of a losing regular season record in SEC play. 2 losses away. 4 losses away in these last 7 regular season games of having a losing record overall, which would be the first time. You have to go all the way back to John Pelfrey's debacle in 08-09, 15 seasons ago. That team went 2-14 in league play, the worst ever mark Arkansas has had in a conference run in SEC play, but also had an overall losing record. So that's what's on the menu coming up. Well, we'll see if Arkansas can, at 3-8 right now, there's really not a path, in my opinion, to even finish above 500 in league play. We'll see if they can figure out a way. You get the Hogs have Missouri and Vanderbilt at home, LSU at home. Everything else is on the road. I mentioned upcoming Mississippi State and Texas A&M. Then you've got Kentucky and Alabama on the road. Arkansas's got to find a way to win all 3 at home and pick up a road win to not. To finish above water in SEC play. That's what it's going to take. Finish above water overall on the season. That won't get it done as far as league games. So, for those things, for fans that don't care about that stuff at this point, because you went from back-to-back Elite Eights, then a Sweet 16, and now it's, there's not a path for this team to get to the NCAA tournament. Arkansas is probably looking down the barrel of needing to win 5 games in 5 days at the SEC tournament to get an automatic bid. At-large is out the window. We've been saying that for a while. This was just the next step. Arkansas now 1-7 in quad 1 games, just awful. 2-4 in quad 2, and then that's 3 wins. The other 9 are in quad 3 and quad 4. So it's just the Arkansas came in, I think, ranked 128th in net. When you get blown out at home like this, even against a good team, that's going to fall even more. So those are just kind of some of the details here. This was a game. It was very interesting. I talked about it in my pregame. I did that from Jose's Bar and Grill in Tawny Town about 3 or so hours before tip tonight, and made it on down to Bud Walton Arena in Fayetteville. But one of the things I talked about against this Tennessee team was that Arkansas could not settle for threes. And even if it got hot, it really needed to attack and pound the paint. This is a very good defensive team inside and outside the arc, but Tennessee gets on the offensive glass. They'll generate their own free throw attempts, but Arkansas, when you looked at Tennessee defensively, they also give up a lot of offensive rebounds on the season, and they'll put teams at the foul line. And the only way you can really get there is by pounding that paint. Good ball movement first, but drive, get in there. Tennessee did a good job defensively when Arkansas did try to drive, but Arkansas got hot early from 3, and it was a little bit of full goal. One of the things I said is Arkansas did not want to get caught up in a game of 3-point shooting where it's 20-plus attempts, and they did that tonight. Again, 6 of 13 in the first half. The percentage is great, but it's the brand of basketball. Tennessee was having its way in the paint throughout this game from the very get-go. It was a dunk fest. You saw Connect, who can beat you from 3. Tonight, that wasn't his game, so he was getting them and dunking. Adu was probably, arguably, the best player in this game tonight. A double-double, 23 points and 12 rebounds. But Tennessee dominated everywhere. They dominated on the glass. They dominated in the paint. Dominated the turnover game. I mean, just looking at some of these numbers, points in the paint, 48-22, plus 26, more than double the Hogs up, Tennessee did. Points off turnovers. Arkansas was only -3 in turnovers. I mean, 15-12, you lose that. But points off turnovers, again, more than doubled up, 28-12. Offensive rebounds, Arkansas was actually +1 there, but -7 in second chance points. So 12-5 in second chance points. Rebounds, Tennessee +11, 36-25. Fast break, Tennessee +3, 14-11. So when you really looked at points off turnovers, points in the paint, Tennessee was very dominant there. Overall in the glass, +11. So in the physical part of the game is what I talked in pregame. This was not a Tennessee that had a ton of size on the front line like in some of their teams that they've had. So it was really important for guys like Mekhi Mitchell, even Jalen Graham, Chandler Lawson, some of the guards to go get on the glass, attack the rim, and then and if you don't finish, get offensive rebounds, and maybe you could draw some fouls, get to the free throw line. One of the things I said is Arkansas needed to find a way to have a plus advantage in the free throw attempts and free throws made. You got to find ways to patchwork together some wins where it matters on the scoreboard to stay in a game like this. Look, we've seen this play out too. When Arkansas got beat by Auburn by 32 points in the SEC opener, Arkansas was had a lead going into the under 4 timeout in the first half and was only down down single digits at halftime, 6 or 8 points at the break, and then Auburn just turned the floodgates on in the second half. Similar thing here. Arkansas was within 6 at the break, but you knew Arkansas was in trouble because the way they stayed in the game was knocking down threes. That was not going to last forever when Tennessee was doing everything else right. Tennessee actually outshot Arkansas percentage-wise in the first half, and most of that, because they weren't shooting well from three, was just getting to the rim, putbacks and clean drives all the way. Like I said, Connect and Adu were having a dunk party in this game. A lot of that in the first half. And we've seen this play out, not only in the Auburn game, but in other games where Arkansas may be a little competitive on the scoreboard at halftime. But there are too many things going wrong. And so when I think Tennessee had an early run in the second half, they were up 12. They pushed it to 17, and there's still a lot of clock left, a lot of time left of this game. I don't know what where the clock was at that point. But I tweeted out that even though, that they had just had hit back-to-back threes, had a little run to go up 17, I said, this is starting to feel like Auburn. Even though it was only half of the margin of what the final score was at Auburn, I felt like it was heading that way. And sure enough, it did. It was an almost identical blueprint in terms of what the scoreboard looked like. Where Arkansas had a few little leads in the first half, then fell behind, had a bad close of the first half and fell behind a few possessions, 2 or 3. And then second half, the floodgates open. So this was a Tennessee team that, backed up that top 10 ranking tonight and was the superior team. The Vols have won 3 in a row in this series. This is one of the few SEC teams, when you look at the overall series record, actually is winning and head-to-head, and it was a +3 margin in that coming in. Now it's +4, 26-22 all-time. Tennessee has the edge there in the all-time series. The Vols, when you look at the final shooting numbers, 33 of 58, 56.9%. We knew Arkansas's defense has played better for halves, not even putting together total games against inferior competition. When you look at the top part of this league now and what's happened against teams like Auburn, South Carolina, Tennessee, you're starting to see the difference of these kind of teams and what Arkansas is up against versus where they've had some marginal success, beating a really bad Mizzou team, a Georgia team that's in a slump, now lost 5 in a row after losing Arkansas on Saturday, had lost 5 in a row. And even Texas A&M, A&M's playing probably a little bit better right now, but was down a man when Arkansas won that game by a point. And even when you're not losing, even in some of these games where Arkansas's won, they build double-digit leads, sometimes some pretty sizable leads, and they can't hold on to them in the second half. The second halves have been – it's almost like an avalanche for this team. Win or lose, and it's usually a loss. It's a lot more losses in league play. Arkansas is a break-even team on the season, 12-12 in year 5 under Eric Musselman. And, tonight Arkansas has 1 double-figure score in Tremont Mark. Not an efficient game for him. He is Arkansas's leading scorer. He had 3 or 4 other guys with 8 points. I think Jalen Graham, 8 points, 7 rebounds. Devo Davis, by the way, tonight, I think he had 8 points and 3 rebounds, 4 assists. But he now joins Todd Day, for whatever this is worth to fans, Devo Davis now joins Todd Day as the only two Razorbacks with career numbers that look like 1,000 points or more, 500 rebounds or more, 300 assists or more. So that's pretty rarefied air. Devo Davis has been a major factor in the three previous seasons where Arkansas, we know what Arkansas did under Eric Musselman, and with Devo Davis being that mainstay. There's been other really good players, guys in the NBA now, guys that meant a lot in that run. But Devo Davis is one that's meant as much as anybody, and he was there for all of them. So, he did step away from the program from 3 games this year after stepping away from one last year. Not everything's positive and perfect. We know this is a bad season. We know he hasn't been in his best. But at the same time, he added something else to his career resume at Arkansas, and you hope that the Hogs can somehow find a way to stay above water in their overall record and be more competitive and finish better in league play with 7 more games to go, and that Devo Davis has, a hand in that. We'll see what happens, but he was back in the starting lineup tonight after not starting in his debut in the win over Georgia, although he did play 35 minutes in that game and had a very positive game there. There weren't a whole lot of positives here. I think one thing is Arkansas has not been good at getting live ball turnovers. Forced 12 turnovers tonight. Tennessee averages around 10. It's not a ton, but every one of those turnovers was a steal. 12 steals for Arkansas. They've had games lately, 10, 9. That's a positive. That's something they really worked on. Everything else fell apart. 3-point defense for the second straight game. Only 5 of 17 for a good 3-point shooting team in Tennessee. Better in volume and better in percentage. 5 of 17, 29.4%. When you're getting beat by 30, it's hard to find positives. But at least in those 2 areas, Arkansas has gotten better. The problem with this team is they can't put everything together. They're bad in certain areas, decent in some, not enough, and then they fix the ones they're bad in, and the stuff that they were decent in falls apart too. And so, this is just another game. Again, 5 games in league play of 20 points or more losing margins. It's insane. This isn't a team that's 3-8 in league play, but oh so close to being, somehow flipping that to, I don't know, 7-6 or 8-5. They're just not a few games away that could have gone either way. I'm trying to think. Kentucky, I guess, is the one where you could make an argument because they lost by 6 and we're very competitive here in that game. That maybe that's one that could have flipped. It's the only loss they have out of 8 in league play. That's not by double digits or more. That makes the point. 5 of them by 20 or more or more than 20 points, and then 2 more by double digits, South Carolina and Georgia. So a total of 7 of their 8 losses are by double-digit margins. Kentucky's the lone with the losses, and the wins again. A&M, Missouri, and Georgia, Arkansas. Even when it was playing well for part of the game, building double-digit leads, whatever, they couldn't sustain those, and had to scratch out those close wins. So we know what this Arkansas team is now. It is what the record says it is, and everything we've seen, even when there's been some improvement, it's just not enough to raise this up to a quality team. And so we start talking about the future. I've been reporting for a while that Eric Musselman, going back a while, we call it putting feelers out through third party. I don't want to make jokes about this, but the for rent sign was hanging, for hire. So sometimes those things are done for leverage, for negotiations. Sometimes it's a little bit of everything. Maybe there is some interest to get out and look at some other possibilities. And if you don't decide not to do that, you can get some leverage there for where you're at. But this season has had so many moving parts other than what we've seen negative on the court, off the court. There's all kinds of stuff. There's some crazy rumors. The Devo situation, we know Trevor Brazile now has missed another game. He's been out. 5th game that he's been out with a knee soreness. I don't know if there's a pathway or a point at this juncture for him to risk anything because he's a guy that's got NBA draft projections. We'll see where those go. He didn't have the best season as things were turning out when he stopped playing, and so we have that going on. You had an indefinite suspension early last week that was lifted before, and it was never announced publicly. I talked about it. Caleb Battle tonight. That was who we talked about in that deal. Good first half for him. He actually sparked Arkansas. Had eight points in a run there, and Arkansas was able to stay within 6 at halftime. It's just there's not a lot to hang your hat on. I mentioned Devo crossing the threshold tonight for, some career numbers he can be proud of. Talked about some of these hustle plays. I mean, Arkansas was +1 on the offensive glass technically, even though they were getting crushed there in the first half. And they won steals. Arkansas's bench outscored Tennessee's, for what it's worth, 27-22. These are just empty stats when you're getting crushed. Out there. And it was a runaway train. I mean, it felt like the Auburn game. That's why I tweeted that early second half. I just saw that it was about to get even worse because Tennessee was just too good inside and out. Nobody was stopping that offense, and Arkansas was having too many turnovers. And it was just, even though they got some steals in this game, you do one good thing and 5 other things are caving in on you. This is what happens. All right, we're almost 16 minutes in. Thank you for joining me on HogvilleNet YouTube Live. I realize it's late. Anyone joining me, I appreciate that. This is a throwaway season for Arkansas. This is really bad. Where does it go? I brought up Eric Musselman. Is he gone? I've said for a while consistently, I think it's more likely that he doesn't return than it is that he does. Kind of a slight lean toward that. And why I say that is because the kind of season they're having and some of this off the court stuff. And what's going to happen is you're going to have all kinds of different dominoes start to go. I mean, you saw Ohio State's coaches out. All kinds of dominoes are going to move around. There's other coaches that are having successful seasons, so that might leapfrog other guys that are struggling. You just don't know how it's going to play out. And so we need to see, I have a feeling that things are not going to get better for Arkansas in this season. They're going to continue to be, they'll maybe pick up a few more wins with some of these home games, but it's not going to mean much to what this season looked like. And so I feel like if Musselman stays, there's probably not the opportunities out there that he would want. That's my take on it. Not that anyone's told me that. Opportunities that may not be on the board that he thought might be there, and some other things that will happen, that coaching domino, because we know that's going to happen. He's not the only name out there. But he's not a guy that should be on the hot seat. This isn't about hot seat. This is more about, having feelers out there for quite a while. And again, I don't know that he would jump at anything to get away. I've not said that. That's why I think what options are out there, how limited are they, and what's viable for him. I do think we're, as fans get disappointed and kind of tune out this team and the rest of the way on this season, the portal stuff's going to pick up soon. The coaching carousel's cranking up, and we're going to have actually more content. We're going to come on and do more of these YouTube lives so we can start talking about some of this other stuff. Because I think Arkansas fans will get excited again. The program's strong. It's not having a good season. Eric Musselman's the reason for that. We'll see if he, again, if he's still here. I'm not at a point where I'm 60 to 70% that he's out. I'm still in that slight lean only because I think other factors might limit what's available to him. Maybe. We're going to see how all that plays out. And certainly portal moves are being made behind the scenes now. So, as we know, there's now timelines when guys can get in and when it's open for coaches to pursue. But a lot of stuff through third parties is shaking out now. Same with some of the coaching discussions. So there's a lot going on. And again, these things will heat up as Arkansas, it becomes more and more apparent they're going nowhere. I mean, it's already apparent. I mean, again, I think at this point, Arkansas has got to win 5 out of 5 in the SEC tournament for the automatic bid. And so we'll spend a lot of time, we'll invest a lot of time in talking about some of the other stuff because I don't mind folks coming on here asking questions about coaches they like or throwing in names and different things like that. It seems, some may think that's a little disrespectful with the season still going, but this is the nature of sports now. I mean, you've got college players that are effectively professionals. NIL is going to play, I think, the biggest role that it ever has in the coaching carousel and in the portal. And Arkansas right now, from what I've gathered, it's not very strong in NIL, not relative to the SEC, and that probably then would be true for most of Power 5 schools or high major conferences and schools. That will be an issue, especially if you're in a coaching search and you're trying to get the best that you can get out of the portal. Arkansas high school recruiting's finished. It's really going to be focused on portal, whoever the coach is, even if it's Eric Musselman. So again, NIL is going to have a big part in that. We'll see if Arkansas can change things with that and feel better about its NIL, where NIL can help with recruiting. Because that's obviously this is professional sports now in that sense. It really is. You get a lot of fan frustrations about knowing that players are getting NIL, and then sometimes lack of performance or lack of availability and all these other things. It's starting to feel less and less like an amateur sport and more like some of the pitfalls you see sometimes in the professional leagues. And I'm not going to call out specific players or go down that road, but I will say that not passing my own judgments, just speaking on what I see out there, whether it's social media, people who come up and talk to me out there on the street. I mean, people come up to me multiple times, throughout the week wanting to talk about this stuff. And one of the things that comes up immediately is NIL. So never not watched a Razorback game, but I'll not a live game the rest of the year. Well, that's what happens. It's called apathy. There are fans that are going to watch Arkansas no matter what and cheer for them. There are going to be other fans that are going to wait and see and maybe focus their time on other things right now for the time being and, see how things shake out and then turn their attention back to the program to see if there is a coaching change, to see what can be done in recruiting. We talked so much in the preseason about how well organized and orchestrated this portal recruiting was to finish up this roster, and with returning guys like Devo and Brazil and Makai Mitchell and Jalen Graham, Arkansas goes and beats a great Purdue team in exhibition season. Anyone that says that Purdue wasn't playing its hardest or its best for trying to win that game is kidding themselves. It was. Arkansas, as poorly as it played in the Bahamas, bounced back, and losing here to Greensboro, bounces back with a win over top 10 Duke. Without Tremont Martin, there's individual pieces here. This is not a team. It's not a cohesive unit. They've struggled with effort. They've struggled with attention to detail. They've struggled with fixing 2 or 3 things here, and then 4 or 5 other things, the wheels fall off. This just never has had a feeling of a team coming together and turning the corner. You could ask, is it turning the corner when they win 2 out of 3 and play as well as they did against Kentucky defensively? You could wonder, maybe, is there? And I kept saying, although it's possible, I just don't see the pieces here. I don't think it's anything I said. I think anybody paying attention to this would say the same thing. You didn't have to hear it from me, but that's been my take this whole time. And again, this is a storied basketball program. It really is. I know there was a drought. Mike Anderson took a dumpster fire and made it respectable. Eric Musselman has taken it to other levels, not to a Final Four, not to championship levels. Arkansas hasn't won an SEC championship under Musselman. They finished second to Alabama in year 2, the first Elite Eight. Got back in the top 4. Well, we know there were slow starts in every one of these. Back in the top 4 in the second Elite Eight team in year 3 under Musselman. Last year, you had a losing record in league play, 8-10, 10th place finish. If not for a run to the Sweet 16, this might not just be the coaching question marks might not just be about what a coach is looking at, but maybe a seat getting warm. I'm not saying that that the seat would be hot. But had Arkansas not made a run to the Sweet 16 last year, coupled with what's going on here in that 8-10 finish for 10th place in league play, this is probably there may be a more burning sense with fans, not happy. Fans aren't happy right now with this, but it could be worse. So that Sweet 16 run matters, and it does matter. Let's not pretend like it didn't happen. What you do in March matters more than anything else for the most part. But on the flip side of that, 3-8 in league play right now, 8-10 last year. Simple math, that's 11-18 in Arkansas's. You have to go back 2 seasons ago to find a winning mark in league play and some success in the league. And I do think that matters. Whether or not, I agree with Musselman that March matters more. I think all fans do that and believe that way. And I think Musselman, I tend to agree with him when he says we're focused more on how we get ready and what we're able to do in March versus whether or not we win a league championship. I would agree with that. But I wouldn't just stop there. I would say, it is important that we compete for league titles and that we're in that conversation. Arkansas preseason was kind of in that conversation, pick top 3. If you're picked top 3, out of 14 teams, there's a thought process there that you're, that you're in that, not only in that conversation, but maybe there's a path to that. I thought this team would start better in league play for once before, especially after, the exhibition season and that you capped off of that one over Purdue. And it's been anything but that. It was the worst November ever. It was the worst non-conference. When you look at the total losses by double, than the previous four Eric Musselman coach teams. And then league play's been worse than any bad start he's had. Arkansas has not had this record in 4 previous seasons after 11 games in league play. So everything's out the window. And I know Musselman is still trying to change things, tweak things, get guys to respond, make them better, help them get better. But like you said tonight in the post-game press conference, you plug up 2 leaks and 4 or 5 more, it just everything breaks through and it's a flood. So I mean that's kind of an apt description of it. But again, Arkansas loses in a big way tonight, 92-63 on its home court, 29-point defeat. The Razorbacks again have lost 5 games in league play by 20 plus points, not 20 or more, 20 plus. 21's the low water mark there. 22 at Florida, 26 at Ole Miss, 29 tonight against this very good Tennessee team, and of course Auburn, who just took a really good South Carolina team behind the woodshed, by the way, and won by 32 in this building. So there's some really good teams in this league, and Arkansas is not one of them. Arkansas, is where it belongs. It's located where it belongs in the bottom 4 in the league. Thank goodness, I guess, for Mizzou and Vanderbilt. That's the right now that's the saving grace if there is one. And again, I've talked about this. No postseason tournament, but can Arkansas do enough to not have an overall losing record, and can Arkansas do enough not to have a complete program implosion in terms of keeping players together, being competitive? Tonight, not competitive again. I mean, that's a bad look, man. That's a bad look. And Arkansas had a recruit in tonight. Had a few recruits in tonight. I think a couple, maybe 3. One, I wasn't sure if he arrived. I didn't put eyes on him. I'll check on that later and report it if he did. But one of those was Aiden Chronister. He's been in the house before, class of 2026, 6'7" wing out of Rogers. He's been, like I said, he's been in the building. This wasn't his first time, but he just picked up a Nebraska offer. I think over the weekend he took a visit there and picked up a Nebraska offer. But he's got multiple offers from the high major schools, including there's several in the Big 12, but Arkansas's one, and so he was in the house tonight. So, and the other problem you have here is when you bring recruits in, when your house is empty. I mean, Arkansas tonight, there were fewer fans tonight than there were for the Georgia game. This was a late start, so folks at work had time to get here. Right around tip-off, it was pretty paltry. I mean, it was sparse, and a few more trickled in, but this was a bad look when you're hosting a top 10 ranked team and you're on national television, ESPN2. A lot of times the cameras don't catch all of that. Maybe they talked about it, but that's not that's not what we've seen under Eric Musselman here. They've played multiple top 10 games against top 10 ranked teams. Some of those Arkansas was ranked when you start looking in February games. When you go back 2 years ago, knocking off number 1 Auburn in here, beating a top 10 ranked Kentucky in here. Arkansas had home and away with Tennessee, a Tennessee team that was ranked, I think, top 15, and Arkansas split those games but won in here. Madhouse in here, man. Bud Walton Arena, when it's like that, it's worth, it's worth the point spread. Usually, it really makes a difference. And Arkansas is not good, but and I'm not blaming the fans. I mean, there's a reason why it's like this. But it was, it's not a good look on a night like this to have so many empty seats. All right, we're approaching 30 minutes. I'm going to wrap this tonight. I want to finish with a Pro Hog nugget since being traded. Daniel Gafford tonight, his 11th double-double in the season. That's a career high. 10 points, 10 rebounds, a couple of assists, a block in 23 minutes, box plus 2. The Mavs beat Wemby and the San Antonio Spurs. Not a good team, but the Mavs are unbeaten with Daniel Gafford, 3-0 now. He's got back-to-back double-doubles with the Mavs, and he's started the last 2 games, played off the bench in his first game in his debut as a Mav, and scored 19 points and had 9 rebounds in that game. So he's 1 rebound away from having back-to-back double-doubles. So congrats to Daniel Gafford. Of 12 Pro Hogs, because Mason Jones on a 2-way deal now, and he'll get some NBA run. But out of 12 of them, I'll say it again, I think Daniel Gafford right now is the torchbearer. He's having the best season among Pro Hogs. That was the case when he was with a bad team with the Washington Wizards. And now that he's with the Mavs, he's picking up. He's playing even better on a good team that's got, obviously got a path to the playoffs. And so Daniel Gafford right now, so often it's been Bobby Portis at torchbearer, and he's having a good year, not as good as he's had, but I think Daniel Gafford right now is the top of the heap on the Pro Hogs. All right, we're going to sign off. But thank you for joining me on HogvilleNet YouTube Live. Arkansas loses tonight at home against number 8 Tennessee. Didn't just lose, got knocked down and didn't get up. 92-63. Again, the 5th loss by 20 or more points in league play. I want to thank my sponsor, Jose's Bar and Grill in Tawnytown. It's where I did my pregame today. If you want to go back and watch some of that, some of the things I talked about, might not be good for Arkansas to do. And some of that played out here in this one tonight. But until the next time, see you then.